Alrighty. Good day, everyone from our educational research class. Today, we are going to be talking about our article, Teachers' Perception of the Impact of Data Teams Process on Core Instructional Practices. My name is Janae.
And then my name is Kelley.
And I'm Storm. We're going to start. Let's get our PowerPoint up. And let me just go play. Which I'm having a hard time doing.
You click on present.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys see it? I don't know where to.
Okay. Right by
where the
oh, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Here we go. For real this time. Okay. So this study was conducted by Michael Schwanenberger and Christopher Ahern out of Northern Arizona University. They began with their introduction. And here we like to tie in Hostetler's article. Good research is a matter not only of sound procedures, but also of beneficial aims and results. These were the aims of these two researchers. The research opportunity presented itself. They were looking at student achievement as a dependent variable in the use to improve core instructional practices. As cited in their research from Elmore 2007, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is obviously student achievement. They were working systemically and systematically to master the Common Core standards. Data teams, through the use of data teams in the data team process, looking for feedback to contribute to achievement, to improve the data team, and ultimately learning and quality of instruction. The evaluation research focuses on making decisions about those programs, and that is what this study was doing. So it's evaluation research, judging the impact, to monitor the progress, to make the decisions on the data team process. It is qualitative research, again, presented by Schwanenberger and Ahern from NAU, when the purpose is to analyze the connection between data teams and student success. It's formative research because it's looking to affect change to the program and make changes to the data team process and subsystems to improve student achievement as well as teacher assessment. The goal was to judge the impact and success improvements in the data team process by looking at data teams in their 4 subsystems and to look at alignment from content level all the way to district level. They began with the review of literature, which looked at educational reform. Reform reflects social, economic, and political context and the evolution of education through the eras of reform. It looks at the skills and understanding. In order to have educational reform, you need to have a desire for the reform, and you need to look at the whole system of reform. And here they looked at the subsystems for this study of curriculum, assessment, instruction, and leadership. Educational leadership practices were going to be of primary concern and the primary focus. It was critical to the whole system reform, and they were looking at the influence, again, on the other 3 subsystems. It was an evidence-based mission to improve the goals of the district by looking at action plans and success criteria, tracking progress, looking at student achievement and instruction, and again, then looking at alignment to really focus on the success. Success of the leadership was going to be necessary for success of the teacher in the classroom and ultimately of student success. We were looking at the alignment, teams, shared responsibility, and peer learning, both and peer learning referring to teacher learning. Which brings us to curriculum.
Alrighty, curriculum. This is the second cornerstone to reform and improve student learning efforts. Dalford said, clarify what students know. Therefore, through curriculum, we implement pacing guides composed of lesson plans focused on our desired achievements. Next, we have assessment. This is how we measure learning, and this is the third cornerstone of system reform. Assessments provide feedback to students on process and progress and mastery of knowledge. It also provides instructional strategies that are effective for teachers. The third one, instruction. This is the last cornerstone. Better instruction yields better learning. Therefore, posing the question, which instructional strategies will yield student improvement? Initially, for students who may not grasp the learning concepts and for those students who are proficient and seek deeper understanding.
These three cornerstones are then used in the teaching learning cycle, which uses the core curriculum, the assessment, and instructional practices to answer the four questions. What must students all learn? How do we know that they're learning? What instructional strategies to use to make sure that all students are learning initially? And how to respond when those students are not learning initially. The challenge of the teaching learning cycle is to develop ways teachers, principals, and the school administration can work together efficiently and effectively to make sure that this is happening. And to make sure that this is happening, the teachers form professional learning communities where they share leadership and responsibility for the learning of all the students. This helps produce higher student achievement, and it increases the quality of the teaching practices. The communities are based off of a foundation to build shared moral purpose and to share the same vision for the future of the students. In these communities, they set improvement goals, and they create plans of realistic goals in each of the members to make sure that we're all in one common goal for the school's reform. In these communities, there are data teams that are formed, and these data teams focus on evaluative research, and that is what the whole research and study was about. And they provide structure, processes, procedures, and protocols to implement the whole school reform. They collaboratively plan for the learning of all students using a 10-step cycle, which is a powerful mechanism to help transform American education, close the achievement gap, and maximize student achievement. In this 10-step cycle, they first start off by coming up with topics that are related to each subject, and then they come off and create a schedule for that. In this schedule, they break down into units, and they'll create pre-assessments for the initial learning, and then they'll score these, and then taking these scores, they'll analyze them and make SMART goals to create lessons for the unit plans, and correlating assessments for the students that need adjustment in the lessons to make sure that they are initially learning everything they need to be. And if they are not, they will use these goals and assessments to adjust the lessons to the students' needs, to give new tests and have new results to analyze and help the students that are not learning initially. After they have come back and redone the reanalyzing and retesting, they will go back and use curriculum for the annual year to move on to the next unit. And then the whole purpose of these studies is action research is being used. It's determining the teacher assessment of the impact of the data team process. The purpose of the study is to answer the question, how do data team members assess and impact the data team process on curricular practices, the assessment and feedback practice, student achievement, instructional practices, and the shared leadership in the goals and district? And this is all in the pursuit to improve student achievement and teaching quality.
All right, that presents us next with our method of study. In Chapter 1, we learned about survey research and how the collection of numerical data help answer questions about the current subject of study. This is done through questionnaires, interviews, and observations. Our method of study consisted in Arizona, comprised of about 5,170 students in grades K through 12. All teachers were divided into data teams based on their grade level and or shared students. Specialty teachers such as music, art, or physical educations were divided into their own data teams. All data teams met biweekly and strategized in the four major areas of our system reform, which is educational leadership, curriculum, assessment, and instruction. A survey was distributed to 295 teachers, with only 203 returning them. One of the challenges in survey research are participants' failure to return the survey. It can alter the validity and reliability of data outcomes. 70% returned the survey, therefore making strong data. These are the breakdowns in the area of our survey. Areas 1 through 5 comprised of Likert scale questions, and area 6 comprised of open-ended questions. Furthermore, there was a focus group of 16 random teachers that further examined the benefits and challenges of data teams on a personal level, collegial level, and student level.
Brings us to the results. The results were the initial, besides the survey information, they were scored looking at the mean averages. They were asked to answer the questions: 5 strongly agree to 1 strongly disagree, and then they looked at those values in the 5 areas. In curricular practices, assessment, feedback, student learning, instructional practices, and leadership practices. At the preschool level, the teachers were mostly neutral, with scores just above, mean scores just above 3. The high school level was slightly higher, in the neutral range, still at right around 3.2 mean score. The middle school was just under 3.4 for their mean score in all areas. The elementary school showed the most, leaning the most towards agree, with scores near 3.6 in all areas. The curricular practices, looking at data teams and the results or the impact on curricular practices, were generally positive, especially when looking at collaboratively planning units and lessons, and making sure the focus is always on student achievement. For assessment and feedback practices, again, mostly positive results. The high school did not report on this area. When they found that when they used common student assessment data to plan instruction, there was improvement to the assessment practices, especially with reteaching and intervention. On student learning, they did see a connection between data teams, and they did see how it could impact learning, so long as the focus was on intervention effort. Many teachers saw or said that they needed more time with planning or common planning and looking at the data team analysis in order to help student achievement. With instructional practices, there was again a positive impact supported from all levels, especially when looking at the sharing of practices and materials, looking at creating best practices, and helping with common assessment and common instruction. With leadership practices, again, mostly positive results, looking at common student achievement, common assessment, common data analysis, and shared responsibilities for achievement being the major areas of impact. In the discussion section, the researchers outlined the premise of the study, and basically the premise was that improved teaching quality and leadership system equals student achievement. With increased teaching quality, the students are going to have more opportunities to reach their ultimate achievement levels. The revelations from this material was that teachers favored data teams, that the process needed to be designed to support the needs of improvement in the school, and that alignment needs to start at the grade level or within department, then move to a school level, and then have a school data team then that works with the district data team. So there is the consistency from preschool all the way through to the high school level. That norms need to be committed to and enforced by the leadership, working with the teachers. Unless everybody buys into the process, it's not going to be as successful. So the focus needs to be on improving the quality of teaching and leadership practices, because that will increase or improve student achievement. The researchers recommended the data team process be prioritized as a tool to increase student achievement. That the school data teams need to support the grade level data teams. The data teams should be grade content specific in order to have the most effect. That's where we're going to have the most impact on best practices for teachers to help reach more students. The data teams need time norms that must be established and enforced by the leadership of the schools and districts. That teachers need to adhere to the norms presented by the data teams and to the suggestions. And that the value of the data team was assessed as important for student success by the teachers. In their own words, listening to the teacher's wisdom and advice may well be the most important findings from this study. Which brings us to our references. Today we used our article, the book, and the Hostetler article that we looked at in Module 1. Thank you.